Welcome to the Build with Boundaries podcast. My name is Mahnaz, and this podcast is for high achieving women looking to grow without sacrificing family and life. Discover what's missing and making you frustrated, and what's most important for you to achieve the success that you truly desire. All this without compromising the most important things in your life: your time, your family, your values, and your aspirations. So let's dive into today's topic. Welcome to another episode on the Build with Boundaries podcast. I'm your host, Mahnaz, and I have Victoria Bell with me today. I'm delighted to have her on, and I would love to welcome her here, and we will get to find out a lot more about her. So welcome, Victoria. Would you like to introduce yourself, Victoria, what you do and who you help?
Absolutely. So I'm Victoria. I'm a registered nutritional therapist and a breathwork coach. And I've got a few other strings to my bow, but those are the two main things that I do. And for the last 5 or so years, I've been working mostly with individuals and running clinics, originally in Hertfordshire and now online, and mainly supporting irritable bowel syndrome or IBS and perimenopause. And more recently, I've been working with lots of people running retreats and delivering workshops and talks. And my hope this year is to reach more employers and start to deliver more workshops to teams.
That's great that you're able to take everything into the corporate world as well, and we will talk more about that as we go through. So, we met, I think, earlier this year, and you decided to join the Harmony Quest, which is a 3 month program. So I'd love to ask you, before you even came and signed up for it, was there almost a time where you thought that you weren't going to sign up, or there was something, some thoughts that were making you think that it wasn't the right thing for you, or perhaps not the right time?
Um, I guess I had to really evaluate why I was interested in the program because I guess, like a lot of people, made impulsive decisions in the past or spent money on things that I've then not made the best use out of. Um, I have been on a long process of self development, and I have worked with other professionals in various ways, and generally they've all been incredibly helpful. But I just wanted to make sure that your program was also something that really fitted exactly with what I needed at that time. But I was always very interested. I just wanted to make sure I was making the decision for the right reasons.
Of course. And what helped you see that this would be the thing that would fill that gap for what you needed right now?
So I guess, as well as you were quite supportive and helped me to work through any questions and so on, when you showed me the Harmony Quest, the design and what was involved, and all the different elements really resonated with exactly what I was needing help with. I think it helps that you and I have some similarities in, well, in our human design, but also in our interests and the way we go about things. And in the past, I was in finance, and I've got quite an analytical brain. And you described the way that you approach the program as, rather than a coach, you're a mentor, and you help to analyze, you know, what it is about somebody's lifestyle and the balance of everything that is not quite working and could be improved on. And that was what really helped me.
Yeah. So where were you before we started working together then? Because you were looking for this balance, and there was a lot of things going on for you, but how would you describe like where you were before we started working together?
So I guess, firstly, things started quite positively this year, and I'm sure, like lots of other business owners, there have been some real stumbling blocks over the last 3 years, especially. And so there have been some real low points leading up to this year where I've questioned if it's a right decision for me to stay in business, and because of my family as well, which I'm sure I can mention in a minute, whether it's the best time for me to be running a business. And then the start of the year seemed to be more positive, and I was doing a couple of courses and felt like I had a plan. And then your program came to my attention at the time where I was thinking, I feel like things are improving, but I still can't move as fast as I need to. And I feel a bit bogged down still. And, I still feel overwhelmed. How on earth am I going to carve out the lifestyle that I really would like? And I guess I knew what I needed in terms of more physical activity, more balance with work and social life and home life. And I just felt like the the things that you were offering in the Harmony Quest were going to help me sort of springboard to that next level. And I really do feel like this whole year has been about leveling up and evolving and sort of breaking away from the barriers and limiting beliefs and starting to really flourish in the work that I do.
That's great. And I think that's such a good point that depending on whether that's internal or external pressures, there is all these things that are limiting us. And sometimes we can see them and sometimes we can't. And so many people have had to evolve over particularly the last 3, 4 years. But it's no wonder that so many women doubt themselves and start thinking, well, should I really be doing this? And should I give it up? And I think what was clear, and you can maybe explain a bit more, is you were very clear on what you wanted, right? Like what lifestyle and what you wanted that to look like, but you just didn't know how you went from where you were at that time, moving forward and actually making that happen. Is that right?
Yeah, and I guess for a number of reasons. So, because of course, my whole work revolves around helping others to have healthy lifestyles, and that encompasses sleep, physical activity, having joy in your life, and hobbies and interests, and spending time with loved ones, and all that sort of thing. And I really value all those things, but I was so um, overwhelmed with the demands, and part of it was that one, I'm a people pleaser, and I was saying yes to everything, and I was trying to do everything to convenient others, and just ignoring the fact that at times that would cause me a lot of pain and even have an impact on my family life, because especially if it's not something that directly affects us, but I'm going overboard to help somebody else or meet another demand, then that impacts on family time. And, I'm quite good at managing my stress levels, but it was unnecessary, I think, to be dealing with that much stress. My children have special needs, so they've both got autism and ADHD. And as you know, through the course of the program, I've been meeting some challenges, which, it's been really helpful to be on the program whilst I met those challenges. But really, that's the tip of the iceberg. So, alongside a turbulent 3 or so years of business, I've also found that's a very turbulent time for trying to get my children the right support in school and all that sort of thing. So it has been helpful to do this all together.
Yeah, and sometimes we don't really realize how many things we are juggling at the same time. And I think that was definitely true for you. Like, it's a given that, we're looking after our kids. It's a given we're doing certain things for the family or for the pet or, for neighbors or for whatever you choose to commit to. And all these things add up. And there was definitely quite a lot of stress and that you were holding that. It was so lovely to see how you transitioned and it kind of slowly bit by bit have things changed. But didn't you think ever at one point that this would like another thing for you to do? Like, when we sign up for a course or a typical coaching program, it's like we've got to give more. Like we've got to put more time in, we've got to put more effort in, and we're already drained and we're knackered and we just can't do even what we're doing now. So did you ever feel that way? Or, how did that maybe change if you did feel like that?
The way I think one of the benefits of working with yourself, or whether it's a coach or a mentor, is that accountability. And because I am a people pleaser and I'm quite compliant and diligent, that was my driver. I had deadlines and that really helped me. And actually, it's a double-edged sword. So I then did the things that we talked about each week and I followed through, and I'm really proud of keeping, on top of all of that. But it was all for a bigger goal. So actually it was all worth it. And I guess it's like if you have a really messy room and it's going to be a bit boring and tedious at times, and you're going to want to keep disappearing and doing something else. But if you do it in a systematic way and maybe use some things to make it feel a bit more fun or enjoyable, then at the end you have this beautiful result of a lovely room. And so that's kind of like the harmony quest is, sometimes you have to shake things up, and change is difficult. So sometimes we meet resistance to change and challenging the way we've done things for a long time. But kind of stepping back and looking at that and seeing, oh, that's why I'm meeting some resistance. It's actually because I'm not used to trying something in a different way. But it's definitely worth keeping with it and working through.
And how would you say it's helped you in the sense that I mean, that's a beautiful analogy with the room, with that kind of current state of dealing with it and the room will look a lot better, but also to create that habit of how you maybe do things so that it doesn't ever get that bad again. It's kind of like a twofold, isn't it? It's like dealing with the situation now, taking that heat off, but also learning how you can do things in the future that serve you better and make it easier for you to do those things that then don't add up to more overwhelm and more things on your list to do.
Mm. So I guess there were a few approaches that you worked through with me that helped with that. So one is that analysis part where you analyze what it is that you have been doing and work out where there might be, for example, things that are surplus or, could be done in a more efficient way. The planning element. So, of course, you need to plan in time off as well as the actual time that you need to be doing. And then once you get better at that, you can see how realistic it is, whether or not you should fit another thing in. And I did start saying no to more, in the nicest possible way, or just planning things further, into the future. So I'd love to see people every day, because part of my work involves networking and meeting up with people, meeting up with friends. But if you plan everything next week and you also have a project to get done, it's going to end in disaster. And then there were other things where it was a case of having regular reminders or sort of switching round how you do things. For example, with my food shopping, which I don't know about other people watching this, but it can be a bit boring to decide what you're going to eat for the week, and you're tired when you are planning it and all that sort of thing. And then suddenly you've run out of 2 or 3 essential ingredients. And so one of the things that we did was get me booking my shopping twice a week at regular times. And now that's just part of my routine. So there were lots of things like that that really helped. But I think one of the other things is learning how to work out your authority, how you make decisions, and actually tuning in to whether it's a yes or a no or a maybe, and learning how to be able to say no gracefully without the guilt, because the guilt bit is what eats you up, isn't it? And you say no, but then you try and compensate in another way, or there's lots of ways that can go wrong.
Oh, wow, totally. And yeah, I was going to touch on that. So we do work, and we did do work to uncover your core values and the human design piece, which, for anyone who doesn't know, human design is a very personalized tool, and it gives you guidance on what your strengths are and how you operate best. And obviously, it makes perfect sense for being more efficient, because if you're more efficient as a person, then you're not having inner battles with conflicted things. And the same goes for values. If we're going against them, we're always going to be causing more friction. So how did you find that work? Because that was something that we actually start with in the Harmony Quest, so that the whole journey then becomes more of this like deeper and deeper understanding, and not only understanding, but actually being able to notice and acknowledge and change things, because until we don't see them, we can't even do anything with them. So I'd love to know if there's anything you can share in terms of perhaps the past or even the present kind of insights and things that helped you just through this particular work, the values and human design piece.
I think it was really worth doing. And you think you know what your values are, and you think because you love family, for example, that must be a core value. But actually, when you really dig quite deep, there are some lovely other values that come to the top. And I could see back into the past and see where things had not aligned with my values, and why I might have had what felt like a disproportionate response to a situation at that time. And so now I can look back with more compassion and see, oh, well, it's no wonder that I was quite upset about that scenario. And actually, if that were to happen now, I'd maybe have a different response, or I'd be able to communicate better with somebody. Now, if something happens and it triggers, it's out of alignment with one of those values, I can see it, and I can see, well, for example, when I said saying yes to people when I should say no, if I think back to my values, then I can always make the better decision. So, for example, one of my values is reliability. And so it's really important for me to be reliable. And during the course of our working together, I think there have been a couple of situations where I've either committed to things that really I maybe shouldn't have. And then because I'm a reliable person, I don't want to let somebody else down. But actually, by communicating at the right point in time, they can then do something else, and maybe there's somebody else that would be better suited to whatever they need help with. Or, for example, there was a week where I think one of the children had been ill, and I'd done 2 networking sessions in one day and a few other things. And then there was a social situation where I was just exhausted, and I had to say, I can't make it. And it was the right decision, because I felt like I was going down with the bug that the kids had had. Unfortunately, I didn't. But I find when I'm tired or overworked, that the first thing that happens is I start to catch whatever's going around. But if I can stop that, then, I can prevent it. But yeah, with the other values, it's been really helpful. And also with the direction of the business. So the decision to move more towards working with corporates this year has very much come from, for example, I'm just thinking of which of my values, because it kind of links in with all of them. So I think belonging and growth in particular, because one thing that really didn't sit well with me when I was only working one-to-one is it's quite exclusive, because only some people can access private therapy, whereas I wanted this information to be readily available. Ideally, it would be common knowledge. A lot of it, it should be what our health system is giving to everybody, but it's not. So at least by getting into workplaces, I can make that knowledge readily available to many more people, and they're not having to be out of pocket to do that. So the work has helped change everything, I would say.
And then the human design as well, in terms of the decision making, like you had all these big decisions to make, and there was quite a lot of decisions, even when you have to say no to things. Like, it is big and heavy. You'd already committed to certain things that you had to go back on, and we had to work through that. But you came out a lot stronger and feeling way more confident that that was the right thing to do, and you acted on it in the right way as well, in line with your values, because you don't want to let people down, and nobody does, and that kind of keeps us stuck. So could you share with the viewers, and what was it like to work with me on the Harmony Quest?
It was amazing. Just going back to the human design, that part of it was really helpful as well. I think anybody that hasn't really delved into it, it is quite a big area to explore. But for example, the two areas where, on the surface level, you can start to get a better understanding of what makes you tick and how to make better decisions. One would be the authority. So while some people might respond to their emotional state, and that will tell them whether or not to say yes or no to something, I have a sacral authority, which is the majority of people. And that is a gut feel of a yes or a no. And once you understand that and start to be able to hear it more, then you can start to see where before you might have said yes, even though something was saying no. And the other thing is the strategy, which is quite an interesting one, because there are several types of strategy where in certain parts of our life, we might approach things in one way or another. So for me to respond, so doesn't mean that I just wait for everything to come to me, but I often respond to things that, it might even be a thought that comes into my head, but generally it's something in the external world, and that then helps me to know this is a good thing to be doing. But because of that, it's okay to not just do the same thing in rote form over and over, and not kind of go away from the middle. I can respond to what's coming up in life, and also focus on what I enjoy rather than the things that drain me, which was what I was doing before. And you helped me to realise that actually one of the reasons I was so drained was I was spending a lot of time doing things that didn't fill me with joy.
Absolutely. So how did our journey together then, because I focus very much on small actionable steps. It has to be doable and actionable, otherwise we're just learning all these things, right? So how did that journey of building like step by step help you to build on this and really create that future? Like you had that in your mind, what you want for your future, and you're on your way to create it. But we had to go like step by step because it was obviously quite, you can't take big steps, especially when you're overwhelmed and overloaded with things. But, what was that like then to just take things slowly? Did you feel like you were working towards something much bigger?
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the steps were bigger than others. Um, but quite often what helped was you would also weave in things that I was doing in my business or in my life. So it wasn't that you were just giving me extra things on top of what was going on, but it might be that I committed to finish a certain project that I was working on, but using the Harmony Quest approach, or it might be, for example, something that I had committed to that I needed to tweak or change. It was manageable. And yeah, at the early stages, it's hard to see where you're going with it, although some of the early stages are quick wins and do really
Mhm.
help. But at some point, you start to realize when you look back, wow,
Yeah.
I've started responding differently to challenges, and life feels quite different. And I think that's the helpful thing because, of course, you get lots of feedback along the way, and when you start, you answer a lot of questions about your challenges and how you approach things and so on. And then when you look back and see where things were, it really helps to see how far you've come because I think we're quite hard on ourselves.
Mm.
And you're really good at being a cheerleader and celebrating and helping your clients to see what they've been doing. But then when you actually see a scoring or the boundary clock, that you use as well, and you can see visually or numerically, it helps to look back and see how far you've
Yeah.
come.
It's been wonderful seeing how you've progressed. And I wanted to share one particular area because obviously, Build with Boundaries has got something to do with boundaries, right? We did a lot of boundary work. And to begin with, what you were doing, one of the lowest scores you had was on regarding boundaries. And it was because you were making exceptions to any boundaries that you had, like if you had any. And what you said at the end was that you rarely do that. So like that, it went from one of the lowest scores to one of the highest, and I thought that was just incredible, showing what that commitment and what that step by step like process of even in 3 months, which is such a short space of time for something like this, but it sets you up and has given you tools that you can use ongoing now. So I have a couple of last questions left. So, how was it working with me different than working with other coaches or mentors that you've maybe worked with?
So it is completely unique, first of all, that there's nobody that does exactly what you do. Um, you're you're really good at being available. We had a WhatsApp chat going where you were really helpful in coming back to me, and whether it was sharing your ideas or just giving me some encouragement. Um, and yeah, that there's just so many different ways. I think sometimes people come at coaching, for example, with, oh, this is the way it works in this industry, or this is the way that everybody should do something. And I've heard that,
Mm.
for example, we talked about social media, and, I've heard that you have to have Facebook ads or whatever it might be. And when you approach things, you look at somebody's very unique combination of needs and wants and so on. So it's very different, I would say, to anybody else I've met.
And who would you say would benefit the most from the Harmony Quest? Who would find it really valuable?
So women and mums, I would say you don't have to be a mum. I think there's lots of people that aren't mums that can find life very overwhelming. And I have ADHD, so I think people with ADHD especially would find it incredibly helpful. Anybody that just feels like, you know, they they kind of resent things a bit because they're constantly running on empty, might be falling into martyr mode, or feeling like everybody else expects too much of them.
Yeah,
There's so many different people that the Harmony Quest could help.
that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And one last question then. Do you have more permission to be truly yourself?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I'm helping my kids with this as well. But yeah, it's good to kind of work out how you tick and lean into that rather than fight against it,
Yeah.
and not be apologetic about who you are and how you work and what you need. So being a very nurturing type of person, it's quite easy to be just very hard on yourself. But once we're all unique. You know, humans are miracles anyway. But to see what your gifts are, for example, it just helps to be more positive about yourself.
Absolutely, totally, it does. Thank you so much, Victoria, for sharing. How can anybody find you, and have you got something that you'd like to share with the listeners if they're interested in how you can help them, or they're more interested in the nutritional aspects that you share?
Thank you. So I am on Instagram and Facebook as Victoria Bell Nutrition, and you can also find me on LinkedIn. And I have a website which is also victoriabellnutrition.co.uk. And I have a free guide which Mahnaz is going to help me to share
Yeah,
for
I'll add it into the links.
businesses.
Yeah.
For corporate, my free guide is brand new. It's tips for promoting employee healthy eating habits. And then on my website, there's also a guide about supporting mental energy and five tips to have more mental energy.
Wonderful. Love the work you do, Victoria, and I think it's incredibly powerful when you can go out to help so many people at the same time, especially with the mental health side, which is just so needed just now. So I wish you every success in all your endeavours. I know you are focusing more on the corporate side, and yeah, I can't wait to hear all your success as you move along. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Build with Boundaries podcast. I would like to invite you to a free mini human design session. Just go to buildwithboundaries.com/design and book a complimentary 15-minute session. Here I will share one area of your design to help you get some instant insights on an area that's affecting you. Plus, I will also send you a PDF of your chart so you can keep that for future human design episodes, and you can have a look at your chart as you listen. So that link again is buildwithboundaries.com/design. Thanks for listening, and see you on the next episode.